Good afternoon. It's Thursday, May 21st. Very excited today. This is Maria Quattrone with Remax at Home here in Philadelphia and Be the Solution. And I am so excited and grateful and thankful that Adam Contos from Remax Corporate, our CEO, is able to join us today. So welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Maria. It's so nice to see you.
I'm so happy that we're back to work.
Yeah, me too. I love it. Finally, Pennsylvania. I mean, you guys were the last ones, weren't you?
Yeah, this part of the state was the last place in North America where real estate was not considered essential. So hard to believe, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's pretty nuts. But Adam, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your story? How did you get to Remax? And I know you've been with Remax for 16 years, and what your story is and how you ended up being CEO.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird story, but a fun story. So I'll start. Day after I graduated high school, I joined the Marines. So all my friends were going to parties, and I was going to boot camp. So I needed something to get my head straight, to put me in a good place, and actually give me a challenge. I love challenges. I love going into something and saying, okay, what can I conquer today? So did that. Got into law enforcement.
So
I was in.
Go ahead. Question. Did you find that easy, or was it hard?
It was hard. I mean, there's no mistaking. Marine Corps boot camp is challenging. I mean, very hard, but it's not impossible, because if you're still alive, you can still function. And that's the reality. So, and that's what they want you to know is not dead, keep going. So,
not dead, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, if you put that in your head, anything is possible in life, because if you're done, then you don't have to worry about it. But
right.
If you're alive, you can keep at it. And I love that mindset. It's a simple decision, right? So if we make that decision, we keep going.
Just like today, right?
Oh, heck yeah, absolutely. So, and I mean, I know you, Maria, you're that kind of person as well. You're like, screw it, I'm going to go do it. And that's why you're so good at what you do in business and real estate, is you don't give up, and you're a reasonable, great human being, which is fantastic. I mean, you got to have that in your heart and soul, but you also have to have this, I'm going to do whatever I set my heart on type mentality. And that's just a fantastic thing to have. And so many people, I mean, Philadelphia is known for that heart and soul in America of doing that too. So pretty cool. But so I was in the Marine Reserves, got into law enforcement. So I was a police officer, street cop when I was young. Did that for 11 years, ended up working 2 years undercover narcotics. So I bought and sold drugs every single day for 2 years. It was so much fun.
There's some real selling with that.
Oh man, well, everybody goes, where did you learn sales? I said, at the DEA undercover narcotics school. Because that's what they teach you there. They teach you all about the dynamics of it, but they also teach you the consumer psychology, the how people and why people buy and sell things. And then they actually kick you out on the street and say, go meet 10 people today, it's interesting, because when you look at what you tell a new real estate agent, go meet 10 people today, right?
So they wanted you to meet 10 people, what, 10 drug people or 10, just any 10 people? Like,
just go find 10 people, because I mean, you go to a gas station or go to a convenience store or whatever, and this was in the day of payphones. So drug deals were done at payphones. So you just go hang out at a payphone, and someone would come up and you're like, hey, you got anything for me? Or you know anybody? And they would instantly know what you were talking about. And it's just, right. It's the same as doing any other business. Go to where the customers are and then ask the right questions, right?
Yeah, they know the questions. So it was easy to find them once you ask the question. Isn't that kind of like what goes on today with every business?
Totally.
It's real estate.
It's, you go back to this know, like, and trust process, right? The KLT in sales, and you go, all right, I don't know you, I don't like you, and I don't trust you. So how do I get through those three things sequentially and get past the trust factor? Because we're not just talking about a financial transaction there. We're talking about a freedom transaction when it comes to a drug deal. So the factor had to be a little bit higher. So I that's really where I learned sales and marketing is narcotics.
That's
And
great. So you did that you did it for 2 years?
yeah, I did it for 2 years, and then I went back and worked some intelligence in the SWAT team and things like that, and I ended up becoming the SWAT commander,
Hmm.
which I learned a great deal of, kind of the stress psychology, being a leader in a crisis, because that's what you're doing. They don't call a SWAT team because they need somebody to go direct traffic. They call the SWAT team because there's a crisis going on. So you show up and you have a crisis, and you have to kind of peel the onion and figure out what's going on in the different layers of the crisis and make decisions and move it forward in order to solve the crisis, because you're the only one that can come do it. There's nobody coming to help you. So you got to make some decisions, you got to solve the problem, and you got to move on. And there are a lot of really big decisions that have to be made, life and death decisions, not just for the officers, but for the other people involved, the victims, even the suspects in a crime. Your job is to save lives. It's not to take lives, it's to save lives, and you have to make great decisions in order to do that. So did that for quite some time. It was so much fun. And during this whole process, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. In fact, I used to hang out in a Remax office with my friend's mom. She was an agent in the 80s. And she would hand us MLS books and say, find me houses that meet this criteria, where her clients would say, here's what I'm looking for. So we would go through all the MLS books every time they would come out, highlight, tear things off. We would go print them out or write them on a 3x5 note card. And that was the showing pattern for the day of seeing the houses. So I had some. What's that?
Where was it?
It was in Denver.
In Denver. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, that was, I was in high school when we were doing that. That was a lot of fun. And that's when I really learned about, the old MLS book. And if you had that book, you were something in society, because people could not get that book. It was yet to be a real estate agent. So to sit there and go, oh, this is the book. This is the book of knowledge in the real estate space.
That's what it was about back then, right? It was about the information of the listing itself and being the, I guess, commander of that information.
Totally.
Whereas today, it's a little bit different of the way we do business, right? Quite different, because consumers already have access to that.
Right. So, they have access to most of it.
But not the intel of what the person you work with has of their 20 years or 25 or 15 years or thousands of transactions, and navigating through that process. And that's what you can't find that.
Exactly.
You can't find that on Zillow, right? I mean, you're not going to find that on the MLS.
A real estate transaction is not only about the information that you can read about the property. It's about the whole picture that the real estate agent can paint around, okay, here are the circumstances around buying this, living here, understanding the inspection and the appraisal. How do we, let's go stand out in the street or across the street and look at the house in the neighborhood. And what are we looking at here overall? How do you feel? Because the data is great that the MLS gives you and that you can look up online, but ultimately you're buying the experience of living in the house, and the value of that as an investment for yourself, your family, your happiness. And that's a big intangible that a real estate agent becomes the master in guiding somebody through, is understanding the investment in the happiness of that house, both for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, things like that. So I'll tell you, it's when you start to really take a step back and look at the impact that a real estate agent has on a community and on the members of that community, it's huge. It is really, really big, and it's just more than data.
It's a lot more than data. We take a lot of pride in the fact that, in Philadelphia, we've helped build communities. We've been working with the investors and builders in the communities to come in and in areas that were underdeveloped and creating whole new communities. In fact, the neighborhood that my husband and I live in, Adam, it's called Graduate Hospital. I started selling real estate in this area 16 years ago. And I would say to people, oh my gosh, there was all these houses that were abandoned, but we were only like a less than a 10-minute walk to Rittenhouse Square. And Rittenhouse Square is where the most expensive real estate is in Philadelphia. And I said, can't you see the vision? Like, you're going to buy here because you can't buy over there, meaning you could, but for like a lot more money and for a smaller space. So it's the building of all these little neighborhoods and being part of that and being part of the community and helping them, because that's how they earn their money for their families. And by working together to build that up. So now the schools are better. There's restaurants. It's, there's all these different amenities that have come in with the neighborhoods. And it's been really interesting because I've been living in this downtown for since 95. So it's at 25 years.
Yeah.
And so it's more than like opening a door and saying, oh, do you like the house? It's
Totally.
It's being part of the community and then painting that picture for that family. So the heart chooses and the mind justifies, right?
Oh, totally. And I mean, it's amazing. The name of this program is called Be the Solution. That's exactly what you're talking about, is how deep you get into that community. For a quarter of a century, Maria, you've been part of that community and shaping that community where people are happy to grow their families, and their friends see it and they move in, and people might be relocated out of that community and have to take the heart and soul that they brought to it to another community. And this is the coolest part about humanity, is we are such a big part of that in real estate. And that's what that's really what drew me to this industry, is I love what the people do in the communities here.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing business. I think a lot of people really don't understand it entirely, and how real estate agents, brokers are so intertwined in the community, and how actually our business affects, 20 immediate jobs between title, mortgage, insurance, inspections, and then all the other things that happen when someone buys a home. They buy paint. The paint manufacturer stays in business. They buy furniture. They buy rugs. They buy pots and pans, and they decorate their home with curtains. At one time, I remember reading that it affects 82 different industries, one sale of a property.
It's absolutely amazing. And that's
you might know better statistics than me on that, but that's what I remember reading.
Well, and I'll tell you, I always get the question of, how did I get from law enforcement to real estate? Where's the connection? Yep. It's community. I mean, that's really, I got into law enforcement. I love to help people. I like to, be the solution, is, ultimately what we're all about. There's so many similarities, meeting people, understanding their challenges and their life dreams and desires, and helping them solve their challenges in order to create a better fulfillment in their life moving forward. I mean, ultimately, when you're a cop and you go on a call, you go in, there's a challenge or there's a question, and you got to meet that person, gain their trust and confidence that you're going to be able to do something with it then and there, and then help them solve their challenge and see what kind of fulfillment you can create out of that. Now, obviously, ultimately in a lot of situations, people are like, oh, okay, well, I don't want you to enforce the rules or whatever. But just as we have in society, that real estate agents actually, keep you in the guideposts of, we have HOA rules, we have different rules around your mortgage and things like that. How do we deal with building code and the inspections and appraisals, and where are the boundaries for the school district, whatever it might be. There are so many different things that we have to live within in society, and we all need a guide for that. We need a guide because we are on our own hero's journey as the consumer, and the guide helps us fulfill our hero's journey. So it's really kind of a cool thing to look at.
It is, and that brings you. How did you get into RE/MAX? How did Dave coerce you to?
That was part of it, Maria. So, all right. So I owned in the 90s, I had started an online police supply company. So I had my own web store in the 90s. That was not the right time to try and sell to the government on the internet, because nobody trusted anybody on the internet yet to put in credit card information, whatever. So I ended up shutting that down, and I started a security consulting company. I was a counterterrorism instructor, so I did a lot of homeland security consulting before and after 9/11. And I got relatively busy doing that, as well as being a commander at the department I was working at. So I had two great jobs. When I was working law enforcement, I would work nights, 4 days a week, and I went to the fun calls, just the high risk calls. The rest of them, the patrol teams would deal with, and they're like, leave us alone. You go do your SWAT stuff, and you will call you for the big things. And then during the day, I would do security consulting, where I would help companies realize, how do we make our employees, or how do we give our employees a higher level of safety and security when they're working in their organization? And it could be anything from stuff like what we're dealing with right now, be it directional movement of humans within a building, or how to do a touchless environment, or how do you understand who's where through cameras, lighting, things like that. So I saw in real estate there was an opportunity to help agents be more safe doing their jobs, because they would go unknown places with unknown people to show properties, and unfortunately people were being victimized in this process.
Yeah.
So I created a course called Safer, Safety Awareness for Every Realtor, and the real estate industry really took to that course, and RE/MAX bought that course from me. So I traveled around North America on a 32-city speaking tour, speaking to real estate agents, and it was so much fun. So I would do that on my days off, and then go back and be a cop. And then Dave Linegar calls me one night. He says, "Why don't you just come work for me full time?" And Dave Linegar, for those on this that don't know, he's the founder of RE/MAX, or co-founder. Him and his wife Gail founded the company. And now we're in 110 countries. We have 130,000 agents in over 8,000 offices. And so amazing man and woman, they've done some incredible things. And they said, well, just come work here and work with our amazing franchisees, the brokers of the offices, like our friend Maria here, who is just an integral part of the real estate industry. So I been there 16 years, worked my way up through the company, and became the CEO.
And it's been 2 years, and you're leading and leading very well. I really love the fact that you have your podcast, and also the videos that you're doing, because I think it's important from a leadership role to the things that you expect others to do, that you take the initiative and do. And a lot of CEOs over big companies are not doing this, Adam. And I commend you for taking a stance and doing it. A lot of others want to hide behind the scenes, and I think especially now, I mean, we talk about really what's important, today. I know you've been like zooming around. Isn't that cool? You're zooming around the whole entire world, and you really haven't went anywhere. Well, sort of.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, Maria. The society wants to see who the leaders are in organizations, because they want to know, what is the why behind that company? What are the values in that organization, and who's leading those values before the consumer wants to do business with that organization? In fact, recent marketing studies show that 85% of consumers want to see digital transparency in an organization before they will do business with it. And 78% of employees want to see it before they work there. So, I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't come forward as a leader and say, hey, this is the organization, and this is what I believe in, and why our mission matters. This is why we matter to society. And if you look back recently, there are a lot of different major business groups, and there's the Business Roundtable, which is some of the top business leaders in the world, like Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, Elon Musk, and some of these other massive business leaders that you see about on the news. They're part of this group that help guide business philosophy overall when it comes to rules, regulations, government interaction, things like that. And they recently talked about shareholder value. And they said, look, Shareholders will get their value if the organization is really good to the people involved with it, such as the employees and the customers. And everybody understands business is about creating profit for people who are willing to invest in the business. That is clear. And that's understandable because you should see a return on your investments. That's how the economy works. Just like when you buy a house, which, by the way, real estate is still the number one investment in the history of mankind, for crying out loud. So if you look at it and you think, what are businesses trying to achieve? They're trying to achieve a whole, a holistic fulfillment in society in order to help it in general. Yes, the shareholders will benefit at some point, as will the employees, as will the consumer, as will society. So the Business Roundtable has said, look, this is about holistic stakeholder value. And business leaders need to step forward and say, I care about our community, and here's who I am, so you can get to know me and trust me. So I think it's really important as a leader. Now, why do business leaders not do this is the big question. The reason is they're afraid of being wrong and being judged. Because if you look at society, we're so quick to fly off the handle at something that we don't necessarily initially agree with, even though we don't have all the information on it. We form an opinion and we attack. And business leaders are afraid of putting their company and their employees in that position. The business leaders have tough. To be a CEO, you got to have some pretty thick skin at times. But ultimately, you want to make sure that your employees are fulfilled and happy, and their families are proud of where they work. So you do have to protect their emotions as well. So you're very careful how you say what you do. And you're also very caring to the community that you serve. So it's a balancing act, but it doesn't work unless you're present. And the best way to be present, because you can't be there face to face. It's just not possible.
No.
But we got this great thing here. We're on video. And you get to see who I am, what I'm about, my smile, my eyes, what's in my heart and soul, and that I care because I genuinely do. And that's important for business leaders to be in that position.
I think that the authenticity of people comes through or it doesn't come through. And I think in video, you can see it. And I think that if you're not being authentic to yourself or your company, it's easy to hide behind everything else. But video's not really easy to hide behind because you can see all of it.
That's right. That's right.
I did a video. I don't know if you saw it. I posted it in John's page, but when real estate opened, I went online and I did this video. It was a couple minutes saying how we're now we're essential. And in it, I actually start to cry because I was so 60 days of somebody telling me every day that shelter isn't essential for the citizens of Pennsylvania. 60 days of not being able to do all the things that, look, we did stuff virtually, but not everybody's going to get that. Sorry, not going to happen. But I was like, and I was live, Adam, so I couldn't stop the thing. I mean, I guess I could have stopped the thing, but I continued to go, and I just said it like.
I mean, first of all, I love you, and I'm so proud of you, Maria. I mean, you have to put your emotions on your sleeve and jump out there in front of people and actually truly share what's in your heart. Kudos to you. It takes an incredibly strong human being, and I know you're a great business leader. I've known you for a while. You are an incredible business leader, an amazing woman, and the ultimate test of strength is, are you willing to be publicly vulnerable? And you are. And that's, people realize, okay, I now have seen 100% of what you are about. And that's cool. And kudos to you for that. In fact, I remember before that, we're all on video in sitting and talking in masterminds, and you shared your feelings, and you're going, I'm hurting right now. I'm hurting right now. Because you wanted to help people so badly, but you couldn't. And I my heart broke for you. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm so sorry. And all of our friends that were in the discussion also, they're like, Maria, because you guys were the only ones left that you couldn't go out and help people buy and sell houses and have shelter. I mean, what are the three things that human beings need? They need food, they need water, and they need shelter, for crying out loud. I mean, that's it. Those are the imperatives in life. I mean, other than oxygen, obviously, but that kind of comes automatically. But the reality is that's you are trying so hard and you're so passionate about what you do. So you're just good at being you. And that's one of the things that is hard for a leader to break through, is to have that strength to be them. And that's what I think business leaders need to hold up the mirror and reflect and go, am I actually being me for the people out there? And Maria, you're being you. Mm. And I think that's why you're good at what you do.
Thank you. It takes a lot of work to put yourself out there and just be you.
It does.
But I remember,
it's hard. It's hard.
It's hard.
I challenge everybody anybody who's listening to this now, live or in the future, go on Facebook and push go live and smile and speak your mind about how, don't go on and just be a hater. Because that's not being a kind person. Go on there and share something helpful and productive with people and be a good human being and see how hard it is. 73% of people, 73% of society, statistic, is afraid of public speaking. Okay, what are we doing right now? We are public speaking right this moment. Okay, and we might be looking at a little electronic device right now, but I know this thing's going out to a lot of people. So I'm being vulnerable, and I could screw this up, and people could judge me for it. And that's really why people are afraid to do this, is because of FOPO, fear of other people's opinions. You have FOMO, fear of missing out. This is FOPO, fear of other people's opinions, is why somebody's afraid of doing this. They're uncomfortable. They don't want to be judged. But you know what? You go be you. You put a big smile on your face. You be a great human being, and you go out and help people. And if there are haters and judgers out there, let them be. You know why? Because they're jealous. They're sad and they're jealous. That's why people judge. And our job is to keep doing this, because at some point they're going to go, wait a sec. Maybe I shouldn't be sad and jealous and judgy. Maybe I should just be a witness to the realities of life, but being kind. And it works better. So that's what works for you, Maria. That's what works for leaders. And that's why you're good at it. Is you don't judge anything. You're like, hey, let me just tell you how it is, and I'm going to do it kindly, but I'm going to tell you how it is. And I think that's, frankly, that's a trait of an amazing real estate agent as well.
I always say the message, good, bad, or indifferent, is going to be the truth.
I love it.
Right? So Adam, one of the things, because I was afraid, like most people, of public speaking. And I was always impressed with the people that went up on stage. And whether that was at the RE/MAX conventions or John's events or Inman, one day I said, oh my God, these people were afraid too. And regardless, sometimes the message is the message, right? You get the message, you can agree or disagree. I don't always agree with what everybody says, but I respect it. But the vulnerability of somebody and actually seeing them and watching them, we're proud for them. We're happy for them, right? We're happy for them because they're doing it. And so they got up on the stage and they told their story. And most people aren't going to poo-poo that. They're not going to poo-poo it, even if they don't like it, because they're afraid to do it. So I figured, They're afraid. I'm afraid. We're all afraid. We better get going, or otherwise life's going to leave us behind.
That's right. I'll tell you what. I remember the first time I was going up on stage. It was in front of 1,500 real estate agents.
Was it at Remax?
Yeah, it was for a Remax event. It was in 2003. And I had done some public speaking. I used to teach.
Practice.
Yeah, I've had a little bit. Yeah, this one was a little unnerving. And I'd been on stage. I'd been in front of a camera, things like that. Before that, in law enforcement, I used to teach SWAT schools and sniper schools and police academy classes. So I was in front of people, but this was people that I didn't know that were going to judge me and judge. And I knew, I mean, real estate agents are very astute business people, and they can see through, any sort of, boring, fabricated BS, whatever you want to call it, in a heartbeat, because that's their job. That's your job, right? Is to look at things and go, all right, what is best for the situation for my client? I'm going to look for, you get this. It takes a really good business person to be a really good real estate agent. So I was going up in front of 1,500, and I remember it was funny because Dave Liniger, who is one of the best on-stage storytellers ever, ever. I mean, this guy's a master. He looks at me and he goes, "You're going to do well." I'm like, "All right, thank you. Thank you for the confidence." He goes, "Don't screw it up." I'm like, I mean, it was, I will never forget that. I remember I was sitting on the edge of this tabletop. I remember the clear as day, and he's standing there. I could tell you what he was wearing that day, and he's like, "Don't screw it up." I'm like, "Oh, wow. Okay." And my job was to go through doors where people were shooting at you and things like that. And I wasn't afraid of that. But going up on stage, fear worse than death for a lot of people is going up on stage. But you're right. It's in practice makes perfect. Repetition builds perfection. And that's really, if you look at the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, one of my favorite books of all time. It's not that old. It's only a couple years old. But he talks about this photography class in a college. And the professor does this experiment. It says half of the class, you're going to be graded 100% on one photo. Go take your very, very, very best photo and turn that in. The other half of the class, go take as many photos as you can and turn all of them in. And I want to see over 100 per person. So guess who took the best photo? Was it the class that had to go find the very best photo to take? No, it was all the best photos came out of the repetition of those that practice to get better. Because doing once is not going to make you perfect at anything. Even if you go and you prepare and look, but doing things over and over and over again, you're going to make these little incremental improvements, 1% better. It's this thought called Kaizen, which is the basically incremental improvements gradually making things better. So it was kind of how Toyota built assembly lines, these little bitty improvements as things go along. It's how the British cycling team ended up going from not winning anything from like 1908 to actually winning a whole bunch of gold medals in China at the Olympics, because they went into these different little bitty moments of marginal gain that helped them get to success or perfection. So you just have to keep doing things over and over again in order to get better.
Just like meeting with clients, right? Sellers,
yes,
buyers. The more, and it's the repetitious boredom of doing the same things over and over again is what makes somebody go to eventually an expert status. You're doing it. You do 1,000. I don't call it listing appointment, marketing and sales consults, because we market and sell homes. You do 1,000 or 2,000. I probably have done in my career, I don't know, more than 10,000, maybe 20,000. I don't know, a lot, but I bet I'm a lot better than the person that's only done 100.
Yes.
Right. So it's like I say all the time, it's the small things over and over again about the compound effect right? Darren Hardy's book, it's a simple book to read. It's like, is what makes us, it makes any business person better. The tiny little things over time compound it. And I always make this little thing. I talk to salespeople all the time. I draw on a piece of paper and I make a line and another line and another line. And I keep lining all the lines up. I said, here's where you are today. That's line one. And then I show them at the end of the page. They're all the way here. I said, this is what happens over the course of your new real estate career. Because it's always the excitement, which is the unconsciously incompetent. And then when they realize they're consciously incompetent is when they usually go, bye-bye, see you, quit. I always explain it up front, right? Managing expectations, future pacing, then consciously competent, and then unconsciously competent. And then you go on from there. But it's the same, it's the whole same idea, whether it's meeting with people, doing video, speaking on a stage, leading, all of it. It all progressive over time.
I don't know if the listeners caught on to what you just gave a master class on improving business there, Maria. I've been to a lot of business seminars, sat in round tables with a lot of CEOs. You mentioned the compound effect of Darren Hardy. He's a close friend of mine. I mean, we vacation together. And you look at all these philosophies and the little bits of gold that you just gave about this progression to get better are incredibly powerful. So powerful that when you realize those things, you go out and you seek that opportunity to try. That's where you put your time. You put your time in, I'm going to go do this because I need to go do this in order to get better at doing it next time. It's the same thing as, you look at success. You look at people trying to become successful. People who haven't done it think it's a destination. It's not. It's a journey. Mm-hmm. And you have to be involved in the journey every day. You have to live for the process, not the result. And if you live for the process, that's when you continue to get better and better and better and better. And you never give up on the process. Don't care about the result. Keep doing the process, and the process continues to improve because, it's the whole plan, do, review, improve thing. Every time you do the process, you plan, what am I going to do? You do it, you look at it, and then you improve it, and then you start over again. But it's a journey to continue to do that. And that's what the flow of business improvement is. And that's why society gets better, because we are capable of learning. We learn from our mistakes. Those that ignore their mistakes, you can pretty clearly see them in society. And a lot of times they're the ones who also give up. I mean, it's people who typically ignore their mistakes generally give up, or they're forced to give up. But those that make the marginal gain, those that continue the improvement, those that continue to make those deposits in that success account, continue to try. And those are the people that make a huge difference in society. So I can't stress to everybody, go back and listen to what Maria just said again, because it's super important for business leaders, for business owners. If you're just in business, are you just doing the same thing over again? Or are you looking at it as, how do I do it better next time? Because that's important. It's important for society. That's how we get a vaccine for something. That's how we learn how to stay healthy, how we learn how to keep our minds and our bodies in a good place. So when we are subjected to these unusual stresses that we get every now and then, be it a natural disaster, a blizzard, a flood, an earthquake, a fire, economic downturn, or a pandemic for that matter, or a war, whatever it might be, some horrible thing, an attack, I don't know what it is. But we have to be resilient, and the only way to be resilient is to tap into our knowledge of how we've done in the past and how we continue to work around and improve things.
And that's what they say. Our future is in our past. Go to go to that place when it was really, really hard and you were really, really in a bad spot and remember what that was like, because that's what's helped me lead through what's happening here, Adam. And I know that, you've been talking to a lot of business owners and real estate people around the world. And what's the advice that you're giving people right now to move forward and through this in their community and their business?
So I'll break it up into people and businesses. So for people, it's about getting your mind and your body right. So I have a broadcast every week on Thursday mornings called Mind, Body, Business. And I talk about how the three of those things play together in order for you to find your ability to create success in what you're doing. So from a people perspective, you got to have your mind right. You have to think in an abundance mindset instead of talking yourself out of or already defeating yourself in your mind before you even tried or finished something. So the most powerful thing on the planet is the mind of the human. And the mind of the human can either create success or create stop or failure. So you got to get that right. And in order to get that right, you just have to think it right. You have to think it right. Because you can think, I can't, and you're right. Or you have to think, I can, and you're right. So we have to have our mind correct. That also includes nourishing ourselves because our body feeds our mind. If you're not putting the right electricity and the right signals into this thing from this thing, it's not going to work. These two things work together very well. You look at your body. You have to eat well. You can't. A lot of people went and stood at the cupboard or the pantry during the pandemic and put bad stuff in their bodies. Chips, cookies, snacks. They were bored eating because they were trying to take up time. Not the right way to treat your body. Okay. And when's the best time to start? Today, to get that right. Lots of water, lots of good things. Alcohol sales are up 600% in the US. That's not a good thing for us. I don't care if you're having some massive parties, but that's not a good thing for us. Let's just call it what it is. Cigarette sales are way up. Marijuana sales are way up. I'm in Colorado, not right now, but I live in Colorado, and we have legalized marijuana. You know what the two things that were open that were considered essential? Marijuana and liquor stores. I haven't figured that one out yet.
Isn't that
okay? Crazy? It's nuts. Nuts.
How crazy is that? It's like, how can the liquor store be open, but you couldn't buy a house? Because I know that in Denver at some point it was also non-essential, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, we had.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Great. So we're gonna have more people just gonna be drunk.
They apparently didn't listen to my podcast, Maria. So anyhow, mind and body drives your business. Now let's talk about your business. There's three things you need to be focused on in your business. Cash flow. Okay. You have to do transactions. If you don't have cash coming in the door, you better have cash reserves. And everybody needs to have 6 months of cash reserves. 6 months. Most small businesses have 27 days of cash reserves, and they ate through that very quickly during this process. It's less than
days. How do you know it's 27 days?
The different business entities out there did a major survey.
Interesting.
There was a study done, and I don't remember who did it. One of the big business investigative groups did a survey of businesses and said, how many days of cash reserves? The average was 27 days. Ridiculous, right? So, not even a month to make payroll. So, so you look at it and you're like, okay, come on, people. We have a short memory from the last recession. So a lot of people forgot, maybe I should have some cash in the bank. And I get it. Maybe people were reinvesting. Maybe times are tough or whatever, and you had to take a dividend. But for crying out loud, if you run a business, you're responsible for families. You're responsible for rent. You're responsible for electricity. All these other things you're responsible for. So don't go out and say, I'm running a business. Cool. We had a good month. I'm going to buy a new car. What did you do to make sure that your business is in a good place, and then save for that other dividend or whatever you're going to take out of your business. But make sure you got the cash in your business, okay? Big lesson here for everybody, business or no business, just personal accounts, have cash, okay? Have some cash reserves. Your parents always told you save for a rainy day. For crying out loud, listen to them. They told you be nice to people, drink a lot of water, don't touch your face, and save for a rainy day. All those things are solutions to what's going on. Yeah. So,
they're saying
so
every
anyhow,
day on the news.
What's that?
It sounds like what they're saying every day on the news, although I don't listen to it, but people tell me.
Yeah, it's the same thing our parents told us, for crying out loud. So cash. The second thing is your employees. If you have employees, worry about your employees. Make sure that they're in a good place because they're scared. They're scared. Scared creates a fear response. Fear creates a fear response. Fight, flight, or freeze. If your employees aren't doing anything in the business, you're not leading them to do something, and you need to create value for your customers. You need to create value for your community. So you got to worry about your employees and make sure that they are moving things forward. An occupied mind is a happy mind. Okay? Occupy it with good, productive behavior and encouragement. Make sure their mind and their heart and their soul are in a good place and take care of them. Smiling a lot does that. Communications, clarity, it takes away the overwhelm. The reason people stop functioning is because they're overwhelmed. And the third thing is the customer. The customer. The biggest problem that businesses faced outside of not having enough cash to keep the lights on was they disengaged from the customer. During this period, 75% of businesses disengaged. Disengagement creates disconnection. Think about the relationships that are going on in society. You're in a relationship with your customer. You're in a relationship. Relationships matter now. It's no longer about customer service, gone. It's not about customer experience, gone. It's about customer connection. Customer connection. That's a relationship. And think about what happens when you disconnect in a relationship and you stop talking to each other, you disengage. People fold their arms and they put their backs to each other and they stop talking and then they go like this. And that's what happened over the last 2 months in a lot of businesses as people disengage with their customers. They disconnected. They are no longer in the front of the line to do business with their customers. Two things I want to say. One, presence creates trust. Presence creates trust. If you are not present business people, you have no trust of your customer anymore. There's no like and trust process we all went through to get to a sales cycle. It's gone. Speed to trust. The only way to gain trust is being present and communicating on video right here. Okay. The second one, top of mind is first in line. When things reopen, you have to picture businesses as having a line out front because they're going to. And in our heads, we form a line of what do we want to do first, second, third, fourth. How do you become first in line for people to do business with your business? You become top of mind by being present and communicate.
And being everywhere, right? Like if you have money to market, spend marketing dollars, video, sponsoring posts, Instagram, Facebook, TV. Well, if you are on TV, YouTube, right? There's like so many places to be. I think people need to see you that you're everywhere and that you're communicating and you're delivering a message.
That's true. You're right. That is presence. That is creating presence. And be you. No feature benefits, no sales pitch. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah, there's no like that. It's so funny because people would always say, well, what do you say? I said, well, I just tell them, I did tell them the story. I tell them the story about how the other person, we helped the other person during the same time, right? The story, people want to know that because safety is really important for people. They want to feel safe right now. People are afraid. They're afraid to go out. So telling the message of safety and how we can do these things for you in a very safe way, I think is really important too. To let them know that this is not like, oh, we're just going to go back to whatever, however things were. No, we're not. Protecting them and their family.
100% correct. And you know what safety is, protecting is? It's caring. It's caring. Again, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I mean, that's it.
It's always like that, though, right, Adam? Isn't a lot of this is always the same things that really what should have already been happening?
Yes, 100%, Maria. But in the pre-COVID period, we had so much noise that we forgot who we were. And we got reminded when we got locked in our houses. And who we are, we're people. The fascinating, I've been all over the world on video in the past 2 months. I've talked to tens of thousands of people around the world in the past 2 months on video. And you know what's interesting? It didn't matter where we were. Everybody was the same. And before that, you'd be like, oh, you're from here, or you're from there, or you're European or Italian or German or, you know, British, or you're from, you know, Argentina or Venezuela or Uruguay, or, I mean, pick a country. I've pretty much been there during the COVID process or the COVID period. And it's fascinating because before this, I would get on a plane and go to these places, and people were like, oh, it's different here. Nobody said it's different here during this process. Everybody said, we have the same needs, wants, and desires. We all care about the same things. We care about each other. How do we work together to solve this problem? And it was really heartwarming to see, because we're not talking about the competition. We're not talking about who's got better features and benefits. We're talking about who cares. Who cares about people and is the best at that? And I think you can't disappear during the tough times and come back during the good times and expect people to respect you. You got to be here during the tough times for people to care about you during the good times. And that's important for businesses to think about that. So it's not a relationship of convenience. It's a relationship of humanity.
Yeah, I just got the chills. It really is. And I think the relationships that you form with people now will be deep, will go a long time.
I agree.
And I think that there's a different bond and connection that you have with them. And yeah, it's been hard, right? It's some days you don't want to talk. Some days you don't want to talk to anybody, but you have to. Adam, could you just not talk to people? You cannot not talk to people.
You're right. We need human interaction. We're a social creature. I mean, it's okay. But and honestly, and Maria, we have this thing called video calling, right? Do you know how long? Here's a quiz for everybody that's on this. How long has video calling been around? Since 1964.
Wow.
Okay? Google it. First video call, 1964. There's a picture, a black and white photo of people making a video call. It's interesting when you look at it and you're going, why did I take so long to start doing this? And it was that, ultimately it didn't become mainstream. It didn't become personal or whatever. And in June 7th, 2010, Steve Jobs released the iPhone 4, June 7th, 2010. And he's on stage and he says, and I can make a video call. Watch this. And he calls Johnny Ive with FaceTime. And him and Johnny have a conversation. And they sat there and they looked at each other and they smiled. And then he played a video that was about 1.5 minutes long. And he almost broke down in tears because the video was so touching. And all it was people looking at each other going, hi, hi. And they're smiling at each other. And they're transferring emotion by smiling at each other. We can do that. And then when you see somebody, yes, it is even more powerful when you're in person. And you smile at people. And you know what happened during this process? A lot of people either got really defensive all the time and real touchy, or they got really emotional and really, really outgoing. And smile, talk about how much you love somebody's passion. It is so nice to come out and actually talk to another human being, even if they don't like you. If you smile and say it is so nice to talk to another human being in person, I mean, how can they not be nice to you when you do that? For crying out loud, wear your emotions on your sleeve. Be a happy human.
Yeah, be a happy human. I actually think that this whole thing is obviously it's terrible, but I think there's so many really great things that have come out from humans, and the resiliency and the caring and the giving. And I love the Zooming. I love the connection, like on the mastermind calls and on the calls with my clients and on the calls with my team, every day, twice a day, and the call, all of it. I mean, is it, can you feel a little worn out from it? I don't know. I used to do all in-person meetings. So the only thing I miss about the in-person meetings is eating and drinking.
Yes.
And somebody waiting on me.
I mean, I have,
And
you and I have had dinner together, and it is a blast. So I would agree that yes, I miss sitting in it. Eating is one of my favorite things, just for the record. And
trying stuff, right? Like trying like fancy. I think we tried try the escargot or something that day.
Yeah, we did.
I have to try it.
You're like, Adam, you got to try this. I'm like, I don't like it, Maria. And you go, Adam, you're going to do it. I'm like, okay.
It was good though.
It was fantastic.
It was
Put
good.
enough butter and garlic on anything, it's going to be good.
Oh, please. I mean, I can't keep enough butter and garlic in my house. I've been putting jeans on. I never wear a no jeans office. That's just our policy, is business professional or business casual. And so I'm at home, and I will go out today. I'm going to go to a meeting. I'm going to walk a building, a commercial building later on. But I've been putting the jeans on because, they have to button up. So they're tight. So I'm just going to keep wearing them tight until they're not tight. It's a reminder. No more,
there you go.
Snacks. But this has been amazing to talk with you. And I appreciate everything that you're doing for our company, and everything that you're doing just in general with your video and your podcast, and how real and human you are, and taking the time, today to pour into us some really great nuggets and telling us your story. I am thankful and grateful and very appreciative.
Well, Maria, I can't thank you enough for having me on today. It was so nice to see your face again, and your smile, and hear your voice. You're just a great friend. You're one of the top Remax agents in the world as well, for those of you that don't know, that are listening to this. And I mean, we're absolutely blessed and honored to have you as a friend, as a business partner, and you're just doing great things in your community. I mean, you're just a good human being, for crying out loud. And we have a lot of fun when we get to see each other. So it's fantastic.
I can't wait until the next. I hope we have the broker owner conference this year. I hope it happens.
We're doing that virtually. We learned how to do stuff virtually now, but I will see you in person at some point here in the near future, I'm sure.
I hope it is this year, because I'm getting a little crazed here in Philadelphia. I got to get out. I'm used to getting on a plane at least, not like you all the time, but at least once a month. I
have to tell you, before we wrap up, this is the longest I've actually been with my family in 16 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, look around, look at the blessings in disguise of this whole thing, because there are a lot that you can find. And I've actually gotten, I mean, this is the last year I have at home with my daughter. Just graduated high school this like a week ago. So this is the last time I get to be at home for good with her. My other two kids who are in college are home right now. So, I mean, we've actually had dinner as a family. Wouldn't be able to. I had the heaviest travel schedule ever in my life booked for this year. That got canceled, so I got to be with my family. I've actually gotten to be with my family more now. So lots of blessings in disguise.
How many days did you have booked?
Oh, I was probably 200 to 250 days out this year. It would be on the road.
And you've been able to be with them for the last 62, 3, 4 days,
Yep.
whatever, in a
Yes.
row.
Yeah. So I mean,
That's
I'm
amazing.
so it's
I bet
heartwarming.
your wife is super happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're all getting a little stir crazy, but I think everybody is. We just want to change the scenery as people, but the people that we're with, I'm completely blessed by this. And I've gotten to spend time with thousands and thousands of people around the world, CEOs, business leaders, major companies that I've gotten to get to know, as well as I've talked to business schools, broadcast out to their students who are at home, things like that. And of course, all the amazing people in our industry. So it's fantastic.
It's great.
So, so
Great.
thanks for having me on, Maria.
Thank you. I will see you soon. Have a wonderful Memorial weekend, and I cannot wait until we are all together again in person.
Yep. Thank you. And love you guys. Thanks for all you do. Maria, you're amazing. We got this. Let's keep doing it. And we're going to make 2020 bigger and better than ever.
That's right. Thanks,
See ya.
Adam. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.